so easy to just dance and forget your sorrows when you hear that guy's music. Ojoro.
Ojoro. So you want to do Ojoro now?
He said God is doing Ojoro.
Please don't do Ojoro.
No, I can't.
Please.
Be God Ojoro.
The development of a nation does not entirely depend on the abundance of her natural and mineral resources. It is therefore not a contradiction for a nation to be well endowed with both natural and human resources, yet the nation may remain underdeveloped.
Wait, it's not a contradiction. That's what you said.
It is not.
Wow.
Because you're well endowed doesn't mean that you're going to develop and you're going to be successful. Our nation is a case in point, I am sorry to say.
Classic case of there is what's that? As time and chance happen to them all. How could I just forget?
Well, when you do remember, let us know.
You know, that was something like the fact that the fact that you have money does not mean you are rich. Something like that.
Exactly.
The race is not to the swift.
Exactly.
The fact that you have bread does not mean that
you have chopped belly full. It does not mean that at all.
So the fact that you have gold in Zamfara does not make you a rich country.
Or a rich state.
The fact that you have abundant
human resources
and crude oil
and mineral resources doesn't make you a successful nation.
When the value of, according to the Minister of Solid Minerals, the value of solid minerals in Nigeria alone is in the tens of trillions.
So what are we doing with all our blessings?
Let's not start on a sour note, please. We are celebrating Nigeria's independence.
Well, we have a global speaker and a strategic leadership expert in the studio with us who's going to help us decrypt all of this. It's my pleasure to welcome Dr. Sam Adeyemi.
Thank you very much. Good morning. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you for joining us.
No, I'm sorry. The race is not to the swift. That's what she said. The battle is not to the strong.
Thankfully, he was here.
Strength.
So he knows exactly who said it. But go ahead.
Strength is not. Favor is not to the learned. In other words, Nigeria is favored. Nigeria is learned. Nigeria is strong. Nigeria is this. Yet
Nigeria is swift.
Nigeria can remain underdeveloped. It's a very depressing irony, isn't it?
Absolutely. In fact, it's interesting that in the development of nations, they talk about countries that are highly resourced being cursed because of those resources.
Oh.
That it tends to make people lazy. Tends to make countries lazy.
We are not cursed.
Right.
As they say, I reject that. We are not cursed.
Right.
We are going to find our way out of this.
Absolutely.
Because the West is quite happy that we are where we are.
Right.
And from what we hear and see, they do all they can to keep us here.
Right.
Because they want to keep coming in to plunder our resources.
Absolutely. I agree with you. So you just reacted the way, apart from the fact that I'm a strategic leadership expert, I'm also a pastor, which many people know. So on that side of the job, okay, so I find a conflict between the two roles. In my strategic leadership work, we talk about scenario planning. One of the major reasons why organizations experience failure is because even individuals, we only plan for one scenario. Our assumptions are usually that things will continue the way they are. Then we plan based on that. Then something we were not expecting shows up and throws everything into disarray. So in 1952, Shell Corporation got some PhD holders together and said, help us to prepare for the future. then they literally created a new subject called scenario planning. Never plan for only one possibility, plan for several. So developed nations do this. So you will notice Shell has ridden all the disruptions in the energy industry successfully since then, to the extent that business schools now took the curriculum from Shell and they now teach it. That's how I came across it during my doctoral program in strategic leadership. So I found one thing. Whenever they do their scenario planning in the developed economies, and they do scenario planning for Nigeria, whoa. The moment we hear, they're just playing scenarios. 15 years from now, if Nigeria continues the way it's going, the tribes continue to fight, the religions continue to fight, Nigeria may not exist anymore. Whenever Nigerians hear that, they say, I reject it. It will never happen. It will never happen. You see what they're planning for us? You see what no, they're not planning. It's called scenario planning. They're just exploring the possibilities. So, honestly, I agree with you. First, that in spite of all of our challenges, we will thrive. I believe it with all of my heart. All the ingredients are there. Everything we need. The most important is the human resource. Sadly, that's where we're failing.
All the ingredients are there, except leadership, right?
Yes, that's the one that addresses the human side of the issue.
Yes.
Developed countries did not drop from heaven. They did not drop from heaven. They were built by people. On this planet, things will never go faster than the human mind. Period. The quality of this world depends on the quality of the persons. And I got that message in a strong way the first time I visited South Africa. That was many years ago. That was like over 20 years ago. To see developed infrastructure on African soil, it shifted my brain. Because there's a sense in which sometimes you tend to think, maybe it's the land. That is, the land is cursed. It's the land that is the problem. And it's one thing to visit London, to visit America, but to visit an African country and to see world-class infrastructure was brain-shifting. It was like, it is possible. The difference is in the mindset. The difference is in the values. And that is where the leadership bit comes in. Again, I must admit that we are still in our infant stages when it comes to the understanding of the subject of leadership. The moment we said leadership now, some people's minds just went to the president of Nigeria and to the governor. But there's a difference between leader and leadership.
Okay.
Leader refers to personalities.
Okay.
Leadership instead addresses principles, processes. And when you say leadership, it's not about occupying a position. Leadership is simply ability to influence one or more people to achieve goals. And it is because we're failing.
Anybody can be a leader.
That is the point. All of us are leading already. I tell people, if you persuaded your friend to go with you to buy sweets when you were a child, you led your friend. That was influence. The major challenge is, once we don't understand it that way, most people are not intentional about their influence. Most people don't build their influence intentionally. I'll tell you one of the things that gives me hope right now: technology. The fact that the younger generation has access to technology. You see, this internet, social media, the phone, you're in the media industry. The phone is now your own TV station. You literally have a radio station. You usually have your own newspaper right there. You throw something out on social media, it's gone global. It's powerful. These technologies were developed from parts of the world that value freedom. So they empower the individual. But most people in our own part of the world don't realize how much power is there. We're still feeling like victims.
Dr. Adeyemi, I'm glad you brought this angle of, the internet, technology, and all those things. I have this orientation in my head. Over the years, I've had this thought in my head that the things that the people who moved for the independence of Nigeria had in their day was education. They had it more than their own parents. Their parents empowered them with education, and then they were able to use it to take on the colonial masters and everything, and they were able in their 20s and in their 30s to take on the system, take on the world literally, to get independence for Nigeria. What I feel that the young today have is technology, way more, way better than their parents. I was telling Alero earlier that the grandmothers of the future will be iPad-touting grandmothers.
Of course.
They would have spectacles with cameras and all those things. Those are the grandmothers of the future. But today, these young people, then with education, they could come together and sit down and say, guys, let's take on the system and get independence for Nigeria. Today, I don't know how we can harness these brains of these young people. Look at the internet. Look at all the content they're creating. Amazing things.
Thank you.
So how can we put them all together towards national development? Because there's a lot more negativity. A lot more Nigeria will happen to you, or may Nigeria not happen to you, than the positivities.
Right.
There can't be national development unless we do that. Can there be?
Thank you. So you would observe something, I quite agree with you. Education. In fact, an interesting angle to it is that the people that actually led the movement for independence were educated outside this country.
Yeah, true.
So when we talk about the potential, the opportunities, that's why I'm highly hopeful, because of the volume of Nigerians outside this country. The volume of Nigerians that are living currently in developed economies. Development is not abstract for them. They're living inside it. So these people who studied, in these Western countries, understood their values, could talk to the colonial leaders. But you guys say you value equality. You say everybody is equal. So how come we are not equal, right? And that's why the negotiations were possible. So, first, we have this huge opportunity with Nigerians in the diaspora and Africans generally. Because honestly, what is true for Nigeria is true for the average African country, right? So you're dealing with what you would call a cultural issue. The underdevelopment has become cultural.
Wow.
So we have a huge opportunity. Nigerians out there, they're succeeding at every level, from government to transportation to water and all of that. So there's a huge opportunity there. Secondly, you talk about technology. So I'll tell you what's making it very difficult for our young people. The environment. It's extremely harsh. The way the human mind works, the instinct for survival is the strongest. You won't think of anything else when you've not eaten. That's the big challenge now. But then, the beautiful thing about leadership also is that it influences the way you see the world. What people see as problems, you see as opportunities. I still see that as opportunities. I'll just appeal to our young people. That difficulty, that harshness actually creates opportunity for new kinds of leaders, new kinds of leadership. You can't afford to be the one that is discouraged. That's what makes a leader. You've got to be the one that is positive, the one that is looking for opportunities, and the one that can communicate those opportunities. We call that vision. We're celebrating Nigeria's independence. I believe it's a big picture moment, right? Yes, we can talk about the economy, talk about infrastructure, talk about things. But I think it's actually an opportunity for us to ask ourselves again, where did we say Nigeria was going? Where are we going as a nation?
Have we ever
never said. We never said. We always talk about what is our vision in this country.
Thank you.
No leader has ever given us a vision.
Thank
Where
you.
are we going?
Fantastic. So I see that as an opportunity. Before now, only a few people had control over the media, and they were the gatekeepers, right? So except the people controlling, so you will notice again, the people that led the development of this country, that a number of them owned newspaper houses.
You mean the independence?
Yes, that
you
fought
said
for independence.
Development.
Oh, sorry, independence. Thank you. They fought for independence. We need to fight for development, right? They understood the power of the media, the need to get across to the people. So that's why they set up those newspaper houses, especially. It's amazing. Today we have the internet. So I'm challenging the younger generation. It's our own opportunity. Now, especially the people in the entertainment industry, right? You have millions of followers. You cut straight to them with one post, right? You cut straight to them. You don't need the permission of the owner of any newspaper or TV. It's time for us to use it.
But you do realize, my apologies for butting in, Dr. Adeyemi, you do realize that in these days of poverty, the first thing that everyone is looking for is how to fill the tummy.
Absolutely.
So the distraction of national development is menial to the person.
Absolutely.
Compared to hunger.
Absolutely. I used to write a column in the Punch newspapers. This day, many years ago. And I called it National Development. And then the editor, my friend, called me and said, you need to change the title of this your column. People are not interested in any Nigeria. They're looking for how to survive, how to thrive personally, right?
That was many years ago.
That was many years ago.
And
that was many years ago.
Today.
That was over 20 years ago.
It's even worse now.
It's worse now.
Right? So I agree with you that people are hungry and so on. I want to challenge the younger generation, especially. You cannot discuss the development of a nation without talking about the young people. They're the ones that will build the nation. If you truly have vision as a leader, it should outlive you. It should be beyond. So especially, that's why for those of us that are in government, I should say, I'm saying us, even though I don't occupy a position in government, I'm just trying to communicate that I empathize with people in government. They're trying to do the impossible. Right? I have some friends in government. They tell me how difficult it is even when they want to do the right thing. Like an ex-governor told me that members of his cabinet were having a discussion somewhere, and one of them came to tell him that they said, Governor, come and so vision. Right? The governor just be saying vision. Is this vision we want to eat? So he was describing to me how difficult it is for him to do what he wants to do. You can't go beyond the quality of the people that you have. We cannot deliberately frustrate the educational system just because we want to make it easy for us to control the people. At the end of the day, it will come back to hurt you. You will achieve nothing and then be frustrated that people are angry with you. So we have a huge opportunity. But I want to go back to us citizens. This fixation with the people in government, with the people in office, and this assumption in our minds that we are powerless, we are helpless, is a lie. Power is first imagined. Power is not a zero-sum game. In other words, it's not like because you have power, then I don't have. And the more you get, the less I have. It doesn't work like that. It's just like money, not just like wealth. It is created. It is created. The volume of money in the world increases every single day. It is created. And the first place where you develop power is in your mind. Power is first imagined. So once you allow what is going on in the environment, this difficulty in the environment, to affect your mind and to make you see yourself as a powerless victim, helpless somewhere, you're done, you're finished. You won't be able to change anything. Rather, why don't we see it as an opportunity, right? Let's be the ones that are describing the future that we want with confidence. I know it's usually difficult for people to buy into it for a start, and they have to trust you first before they even accept what you're saying. So I'll say the other side to the opportunity we have is for you to show love to people. Start from a simple level. Show someone, give someone food.
I later wants to ask you a question on that one. Okay. I know. Even her face can.
I can see it on her face.
In all this hardship,
yes,
and all you can say to me is show love to someone?
Should I explain?
Please, you have to. You have to.
Okay, so...
I mean, I can hardly eat. I can hardly fuel my car.
Yes.
And now they're saying they're going to toll the roads. I mean,
right.
I've got so much weighing upon me already.
Right.
And all you can tell me is, show somebody love.
I'm not the one. Why are you looking at me?
The love I mean is not the one the musicians sing about. It's not romantic love.
Okay.
The one I mean, right, is higher than that.
Okay.
As a Christian,
I should send somebody money to eat.
Thank you. So
I can hardly eat myself.
Well, this is the point. As a Christian, I read in the Bible, for God so loved the world that he gave his only son. God was not feeling romantic there. What we see there is sacrifice. So when I look at it, my definition of that level of love is recognizing the value of a human. And as a Christian, again, my thinking is influenced from the Bible, and it says that God created man in his own image. In fact, one day Jesus Christ was describing what will happen on Judgment Day. People don't pay attention. He said on that day, what God will use to assess, he will look at some people and say, you know what, just go away, I don't know you. I was hungry, you did not feed me. I was thirsty, you did not give me water to drink. I was naked, you did not clothe me. And there will be an argument. That's what Jesus said. There will be an argument between people and God. And people will be saying, you, when? God. Exactly, where? Where? You. If it was my last meal I would have given you, God. He said, God will reply, for as much as you did not do it to any of the least of these people, you did not do it to me.
So you will now be mentioning, did you give it to Alero?
Thank you.
Did you give Ezekiel?
Thank you.
Did you give Labisi?
My summary of that, on that day, people will discover they met God, they did not recognize him. And this is a very religious country. And it's sad to say, I'm sad to tell most citizens of this country, we don't know God.
But how about those who don't believe in God or anything higher than them? So how about those who are just idealists?
Now that's fine. C.S. Lewis, the great writer C.S. Lewis said, virtue is its own reward. This world is governed by principles. There's a sense in which when you do the right thing, you know it. People, doctors, pastors that are usually close to people at the point of their death, they all say that when people are close to death, they never talk about their shares, the stocks they own. They never talk about their buildings. They never ask for their money. It's their relationships that they are concerned about. It's amazing. So that's why love is the greatest law in our world. So I go back to the definition, recognizing the value of a human and celebrating that value. It is when you recognize the value of a human. So I say, whatever you will not do to God, don't do it to man. So you will see the basis for the excellence. Excellence with which they treat people elsewhere in the world. That is the foundation of Africa's problem. Do you know how many people have been killed for rituals to make money in this country this year? What does that tell you about the mindset of the person? That the person values money over human life. The person's brain has been turned upside down. We've got to value people.
Doctor,
right?
That has arisen from the kind of society into which we have developed.
Yeah.
I grew up in this same country, right, where humanity was higher than anything else.
Thank you.
And at that time, it was said that a child belonged to the community. Your child was not Sam Adeyemi's child. It belonged, and everyone came together to train that child. The society would not see Sam Adeyemi's child behaving naughty outside and turn their eyes away. They would discipline that child on behalf of Sam Adeyemi. But the society has changed, and I have witnessed this change in my lifetime, where humanity doesn't seem to matter anymore. Where you can lure your girlfriend so that you can kill her just so you can make money. What happened to Nigeria, what happened to Nigerians? From the compassionate people who inhabited the land to people who can now kill their friend, their parents, their children, just so that they can make money.
Thank you. Back to the leadership issue, I must admit. So the reason why leadership is important, now we said, like I said, it happens at all levels, all of us influence. But we've got to admit also that when people occupy positions at high levels, the impact of their decisions and actions are outsized.
Sometimes they may not be aware.
Absolutely. Well, again, we've got to address the leadership thing from a cultural dimension. I said we're
Doctor, I beg your pardon. I say that because the Accountant General, for instance,
right,
who is accused of having stolen 89
more billion? Than 100 billion, actually.
Obviously, he wasn't thinking about the impact that would have on society.
Exactly.
That somebody in his position was able to steal public funds to the tune of some uncountable and unimaginable figure. Yeah. He wasn't thinking about how that would influence the next man.
Absolutely.
He was only thinking about himself.
Absolutely. That's a major problem we need to deal with. I was trying to compare the scenario in our country with what observes in the developed world because my background is in engineering. So I saw a huge gap in this leadership thing. That's why I went to do my master's in leadership and then did the doctoral program in it. The big question. So where do they teach us leadership in this country? Where is it in the curriculum? It's beginning to come gradually, but...
NIPS.
Right?
Right? I remember the last time you came here, you were actually, advising that leaders should make a deliberate effort to attend conferences and take, pragmatic steps in getting themselves educated in the area of leadership. Well, from as far back as I can remember on this station, we have been talking about the leadership recruitment process in our country. We have seen from reporting issues that we have a huge, humongous, almost daunting and overwhelming gap in the leadership recruitment process. Yeah. You want to employ someone to a level in the civil service, you said minimum first degree, maybe to level 6 or something. Right. But when you want to recruit a senator, he doesn't need more than a school certificate. No, attempted school certificate. He doesn't even need to pass. Right. You want to employ a president who is going to govern the life of a doctorate degree holder, of a professor. He doesn't have to pass school set. Yeah. He just needs to attempt it. Yeah. So how I don't even know how to form the question here. Because you are talking about us talking to the young people. Yeah. And they have been told all their lives that you need to get education. Right. Now you don't get education, you get the education and it will seem like what's the point of getting the education if you can be a president with just an attempted school certificate? That's a really big issue for us to consider, I admit. But I think, though, that it's a little beyond that. So can we say that the ones who have had university education, even up to PhD level, have done better in leadership in this country? No. Thank you. Well. So back to Alera's question earlier on. Why would someone be in a position where you are meant to manage money for the whole nation and you are consuming it for yourself? Something is seriously wrong. It has to go back to the foundation. When I compared with developed economies, I found that the leadership training starts from childhood. That's what I found. How much theory do you want to teach children about leadership? The sophisticated definitions and so on. You know what they do? From primary school, they make them to do volunteering. They take them to orphanages.
serving for free without the expectation of anything. In fact, I had this discussion some months back in the US with some Nigerians. So I said, I observed this difference between you guys here, your system here, and the one we have in Nigeria. Your children are compelled to do volunteering. They said, let me explain. One of them said, let me explain it to you. In my children's school, they could not graduate without doing the volunteering because they actually got credit for it was a subject, and they got score. So you could not graduate. When you want to go into university in the US, you apply. They ask you to write it. All universities ask you to write a personal statement. Tell your own story, describe yourself. And they're expecting to see the value you will add in the university. I learned that one of the major things they're looking for is the volunteering that you've done. You know what the volunteering does? It kills selfishness. We humans are naturally self-centered. Naturally. Something has to happen to you as a human to kill it, to turn the focus away from you to other humans. That doesn't happen here on a large scale. That's why people will get into position, and then, like Alero said earlier on, they say somebody took 80 billion naira. And the rest of us are looking at it and we're thinking, is he mad? What do you want to do with 80 billion naira? One of my friends, a business person, said he was at a meeting once, and there was this partner that came from Europe. A former Inspector General of Police had just been charged to court. I think they said he stole 17 billion naira there, and that was many years ago. So this European was asking...
His name begins with a B.
Okay. No, me. So the European said, are you sure the man really stole that amount of money? They said, yes. Are you really sure? They said, yes. He said, and you guys have not poured out on the street to protest? I think something is wrong with all of you. Right? So something needs to start, and it needs to be foundational. In leadership, we say you need to have character, you need to have competence. Some people say, oh, that a famous person said, you need character and you need competence. And if you must do without any, just make sure it's not character, you must have character. I said, Having one of them and not having the other causes what I call leadership stroke, where one part of your body is paralyzed. If a leader has character but does not have competence, does not have skills, leadership is a skill, does not have skills. It's like they say you just boarded a bus, right? And then they said the driver is a very good man. He's a very kind, he's a very nice, very humble, very respectful, although nobody taught him how to drive. So it is only prayer and the grace of God that he uses to drive. Will you stay in that vehicle safely? No. As I say, it's a good man is not enough. Character is not enough. You got to have the skills. On the other hand, you have someone who has skill, who has competence. Like we're saying, the person has a PhD, but has no character. You just have a sophisticated crook. And the person will use that sophistication to cheat you. Let me add a point here. I read a book several years back, Why Nations Fail, by Darren Acemoglu and James Robinson, two professors of economics. They studied why some countries are developed and why some are not. The basic thing they found, the political evolution of each country. So they found out that in most countries, the natural tendency as humans is you have a small group of people in the elite class. They control political power. Then they use political power to channel economic resources to benefit themselves and the people close to them. That's where Africa still is. That's where we still are. The countries that have been the most powerful, they broke the power of that elite class, right? They broke it. That's why they introduced democracy and introduced equality as a value. Started from France, that French Revolution thing. Until you do that.
The price of bread.
Thank you. So right now, the citizens are shouting and crying. Some people are making money they've never made before. They're making billions they've never made before. Yeah. The political class, the elite class will favor itself. But we have a beautiful model coming out of the Middle East where they don't even have democracies. They are monarchies. Why are they developing? Because they have an elite class that has conscience, elite class that feels for the people. Nobody voted them in. You can't vote them out. They just chose themselves to be good to their people, to empower their people. It's so sad, I must say, that when we look at our own elite class, it seems as if it cannot even redeem itself. But we can only appeal. And honestly, I'm appealing. I've become part of the elite class now. I set up a leadership school 22 years ago to help push some people into the elite class, to have leaders that have conscience, right? I'm appealing to those who have found themselves in positions now where they have power, political power. Look, at the end of the day, they will pack you inside a box. My dad passed some few months back. We buried him about 4 weeks ago. And as I looked at his coffin, I remember the title of a book that I read. Still in my library. It all ends up in the box.
Yeah.
So in our family, we love to play Monopoly, you know, financial education game. And each time when we finish the game, we pack everything inside the box. Life is like that. They will pack you inside the box somewhere. You may use your political power to control the narrative now, control the media, not even allow anybody to say anything against you. You will go. And one day the truth will still come out. What will be your place in our history? What a huge opportunity we have in Nigeria, in Africa, right? A whole continent is suffering. And I just want to appeal. It's time for us to have conscience. What else do you want to achieve in your life? It's a rare opportunity to be a leader at a high level. 400 million people, only few people occupying few positions. As we celebrate Nigeria's independence, I want to appeal to those of us that occupy positions, especially in government, that it is time to add conscience to that power and realize success is not about what you acquire, it's actually about what you give.
I have 10 other questions.
That's a good place to leave it today, but Doctor, really, you have to come back.
So I have to reserve my 10 questions to the next time?
Yes, but you have to, because our time is completely up.
Okay.
You have to come back another time, please, please, please.
This month?
We've had a very interesting conversation with you, even though we haven't covered all grounds yet.
I haven't even started.
We didn't even go to, okay, you said leader is one thing, leadership is another. Which one are we lacking? Why are we where we are? We're going to talk about that the next time you come, Doctor. Thank you very much for coming. Dr. Sam Adeyemi, global speaker, strategic leadership expert. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you so much, Alero. Thank you, Ayo, for having me.
So Alero is leading us to the next segment, and what we'll be talking about, but is that leading or leadership?
We'll be back in just a moment with another interesting conversation. Do stay with us.